Promise News.
No siabo yamamu nyinache adeba Promise 102.7 yewo kumase dum Bosheba building anopensa mudo eri from mamu ena busafo yere tuamu yedemu live e Facebook ena YouTube so ka ho dedimo akotre bi ene say abusuya Professor Evans Fifi Atamels John ye wanyene ba bi kofri mu de abetu dwa say womo enka womo a ebehia na na dodan kwakufo ade ho no say womo hwehwe bibi no womo nka ho Deputy General Secretary Trotro abede chede ma NDC amanyekon de atudwa say uraba omia ye niema bia womani nye ho na wono mom hia kire enema NDC executives no womo kontokwa wode sika bi wurawura mu a ye de nkyeremu ebebre mom abusafo saa asem ya ho ena NDC amanyekon no de krata ba bonten abeka setia saa basabasa yesiye ama womo Northern Regional Treasurer Hejia Shamima Yakubu yabo no womo abeka sa edietia Jumadie Stronku bi bekoso Ghana hanom eyabibre mu ha eku ye from African Prosperity Dialogue na womo a organize no African Prosperity Network Ghana ha ene bekoso botai no ene sen ye de mu nkyeremu nyina bebrem na enu achi no Madina mrashebadwani edi bibia koto mrashebyefi a wo hwe se obi ye boni bia kuma ye fre no Miss Dimianda no se asotwe no ebe ya nka yensesa no na yenyere bia community kura se de wosi cheche mu no ye de mu nkyeremu ebeba na rahosam ye busafo ye de ba Bismarck kwabana akon wo ye droba na ne yete ne se wa wuya ye bia wojure ho a wonte ase ye de mu nkyeremu ebra wa teacher fo mu ntie oradwa mama sen sa wasaba ye o mampani biemu a mo allowance de mamo ene nurse for de no betwam na teacher fo akatua so mamo hwe anim se ne kyina ye betum sanse na na do awido mpani nyina enkase ne nyina nam so wasawe kurampo aka ho ensam na doso obi di hye aisibu ma na no pa mene namo Oduefour na na sabere pinaman na na penkrahene chiame ana mene modi ahye abusia ensam no endie ye de kan asemo ya kiremu de ato manim dada se abusia eye ekonfi na na bin abusia Professor John Evans Fifi Atamels Ghana mampene dada wanyene ba bi kofiri mu no womo akwakohia na na dodan kwakufu ado ya womo de atodwa se womo pe de a doctor for ade abetudwa se eno na ekum owura ye Atamels de friend say autopsy report no na enra ya we baaye no abusua ne fa foforo so de abetudwa se womo de enye abusua no mu ade hye trodo ne ko na na do ho no no masa de kokobo ama owura kwaku anye do ho se onye busuani enti Professor Mason sensem bia no ne womo busua mu sensem no ontwe ho firim
Asuma ye kan se eye kwaku adehu ade amwana busua kwesibentu yefe konfi na ben Tanos na sefo ne ye no eye bu ye nimtia because ade chinya de biala oso nya doctor reporter Tanos fast we and so Tanos de busua nke bia na yefe bisare Tanos na busua no aka hu bia na Tanos ne be ye du one na na ka busua nti yesre no so kofa ofo bi no ye so Tanos busua fo anya busua no nya ma no kwan bi because Tanos busua no ye wona na ben konfi na ben ebi wo enyan densha na ebi wo nakwa mene ohia meda wo ma no a chefe Tanos ni papa ni sipi e wo me busua e de konfi na ben because also Tanos ofu tam ofu asama ofu jankwa o so fi no enye no wa se na busua e be se kwakwa no ani o mampani se kwakwa no wa da because ahen fo do mo ahima na do mo ko ye ni mo hima bia ni mo hima kwa jo o amano ni intimesre shemme kona no ya yedi inti ye besre sanko fo no mo ko na ye stick ni mu bia wa busua no misa
womunya busuafo we na na obosu ya oye bamuhene ewa konfi na na bin ya busua Professor Mace Frimu eno na mate ho nsem no na ndisa amenyekono twetwefo abede che Deputy General Secretary ura Mustafa Gbandi ena wode sobo ebo ura eye Dr. Mohammed Bawumia otu Franka de ma MPP amenyekono na wasan ye omampani abede che se ntokwa ekoso ewo NDC mu no ura Bawumia enim hu bi wona keka NDC executives wo mutibo mu na senya ena Northern Regional Tifi Mantem wo National Regional Treasurer Hejia Razak Shamima wone pani ba akodi bomu ma wo bo ma mi sa rough na owura Mustafa kire se sa ntokwa na ekoso no confusion nyina no Dr. Baumia enim ho bi.
The national chairman of the party is currently in northern region, not just the northern itself, all the northern regions, with an entourage, including other national vice chairmen and national executives, reconciling conflicting constituencies where we have disagreement so that we can move together as a party. And that was held yesterday. There was no meeting in the northern region. What ensued between two executives of the northern region. That was an incident that occurred at the regional office of the northern region branch of the NDC. The only reason why they would do this is that Dr. Mahmoud Baumia has decided to be invading the homes of NDC stakeholders in the north, secretly going to their houses in the night with his driver alone. When Dr. Mahmoud Baumia have decided not to deal with the economy, but to want to try and deepen cracks within the NDC to leverage his popularity in the north, for me, that is not politics. That is desperation, and it has failed.
Where Churchofo Abede Chedima NDC Amanyoko no Ura Mustafa Bandi eno na ensam we ya ho ama ura fifi kweta oye general secretary dema NDC Amanyoko no e de krata haba bonte a o kire mu se NDC Amanyoko no e kasetia sa ebura wobo hajia Shamima Yakubu a oye womo Northern Regional Treasurer no wo se sa basabasa we NDC Amanyoko no twa ho firi mu na womo so kra ebie wose enche functional executive ema NDC Amanyoko no mbehia na womo a edi saa sabe anyamara sam ebo maame no asotwe bi wo ha womatumi edi ama no NDC Amanyoko no e kire se de asie no eyomo ya eyomo hi eyomo tan esan se womo so kra ya womo de atudwa se de eba ye bia no omafo mfanche no mu nyai asam no mane nkosa ayo de omeye bia fa ho bia na wa wodi for de emra na diu no omene ba beto yenim owura ye fifi fiave kwate ya oye twatwafo general secretary ena ne sahye we asin jumadie bi ebekoso Ghana ha ebekoso apuemantem Eastern region efri bosumi me de toso aduonu enum ekosi de toso aduonu enso African Prosperity Dialogue na abibiman bese aduonu emu akandifo ena eba bie botani etiawa de obeye ya obetoto niema na abiman yebetimi akoyanim ewa adwadie mu yedie mu ani bibia mu ya watu no this strategic and a trusted annual platform na wachire se wo hwe sa African Free Continental Trade Area na wode ba hanom na ba Ghana ha no ekwan ba ko a enti wode we ebewura mu na bebuan abokwan ama ya dwadie atimi akoso yie wo mu a ahyehye dwumadie ye from African Prosperity Network na wo mu executive chairman eni owura Gabi Asare Ochredako.
Over the first decade of it coming into being, as in the AFCFTA, for the first decade, if it's going to work, then there must be that push within the first 10 years, as in between 2021 and 2031. Because if we can't get it right now, we would never get it right. And it's the biggest project since 61 years ago. We formed the Oduefour, and it's just opportune, and it's also not by accident that Ghana hosts the Secretariat. We all know the vision of Kwame Nkrumah and others. Okay, so if you have the Secretariat here, we thought it was even incumbent on us to find a way to make sure that it can be supported and it can be driven. But we also think that if it's going to, yes, the political leadership have come up with this idea of creating what will be the world's largest single market right here in Africa. But the idea of a single market is about what? It's about the economy. And who are the drivers of the economy? It's the private sector. So we thought that it was important to find a way to let the private sector on the continent own AFCFTA and drive it. But in order for them to own and drive it, it must be done in partnership with the political leadership.
Wei ura Gabi Asare Ochredako a oye executive chairman Edema African Prosperity Network no we no chief executive officer Emma African Prosperity Networking in Jack Kani enso editor ya se abani bremu pepe na ogiri yese ebema abibiman asua bibi titru pa ne say yebetima di nokure ede ama ye ho na yadwade ne so aboa yen
in driving the theory of change highlighted the AFCFTA framework. APD is a gathering of people who are committed to the transformation of the continent, all in the critical sector. This year, the theme will be related to agriculture and food security, and we all know the issues that the continent is facing and the shocks that it has to absorb during the food crisis in 2008, the COVID issue, and more recently the Indian ban, the war in Ukraine, who has had all this impact. So we all know that our continent is at risk, depends heavily of imports, but at the same time it has this potential to produce. And as Dr. Alisina says, we don't eat.
Anyway, so chief executive officer, African Prosperity Network, ura in Jack Kani eno no. Na yemfi hɔ okomra shebe dwafia, emra ne ma ho kwan se bibi koso na obi mpa otumi de ho nsam kɔtɔ mra shebe dwafia nim. Wo mo dwendwene ho a etimba ye emra. Wo de kɔforo de a eye bill. Onya gitum wie pɛ na wo de ade boso pan na o mampene de ne sa hyase a na ababa ye mra. Ene friend say a private amendment bill no. Na Medina mrashe badwani ura Francis Xavier Kojo Sosu ena ono so da kɔtɔ mrashe badwafie sem ye wa asotwe nkete bi ho aso bi ye bone ne ye de mana asotwe ne friend say Miss Demianda no eye asotwe a bone ne ye ketewa bi enti ho asotwe ye ketewa bi na so be ye ne de amanfo akotum e wo ho ama prison ho no wo ma ye mabro so enti wonde wo de ba say nkebe ya ye nyen mra saa bone nkete no asotwe ne bi ni say ye ntwe aso okuru a utimu na no saa pra da bi abepra saa do da bi obedo tese bibi ho ye be ye wo na ye manipa no nkodam da bia se bond kra na wo so san a na ya mo asan
sentence and a bond of good behavior yen fanka punishment I wo ho edema ne fe petty crimes ana say misdemeanors and na wo ba ye offenses ne mu a ye wo capital offenses and ye wo felonies ye ka felonies are your tese boni bia ekọ anima ye fe ye first degree felony second degree felony answer ne wo felonies implicit any war misdemeanors na misdemeanors no any near friend or petty offenses say boni ankofo di a enye ade a ekọ nanim to say first degree felonies ni second degree felonies no. For example, there will be a friend that said drumming with an intent to challenge, with an intent to insult. Say, your people, say what the year will be. And now say, your one, your friend allows your house to be used for drumming. And now unlawful removal of postal stamp. And now indecency. Your small offenses be brave or no more. And Ninano, it gives you go to prison. And now say, you're fine. Obeko, you cross say, especially once you be a Koreako, and I'll be a Korea banchi. Now, say, Nipano, you didn't go to prison. And I say, Yamani fine. When you are fine now, and you no go to prison. Na emra we are di bana ye hwese se nyame ya dom na parliament me gi sa amendment we di two more. And sa offenses nyina no, ye be work community service. Se nipa no ye be hye se wonko community nim na wonko ye adwuma boa community no. And I say we be sign bond say boni abudi ye no wonye biem.
Abusafo ni amuti ye eyamra se badwani a awo Madina abato mpeso aso Honorable Francis Xavier Kojo Sosu enono ora John Dramani Mahama egusu ko na pro no ya watu ne din building Ghana tour from Temovota region ene wa kwa akoduro no de atodwa biem se de 2016 otwa teacher for allowance ana nurse for allowance no mo no wasan ba biem a wo betwam san se otwam a ebebo Ghana mai pa
issues that your colleagues for me was in a matter of principle. And in 2016, for those of you who listen to me, I said I was willing to put the presidency on the line as a matter of principle on trainee allowances. And you took your decision and voted against me, and I left the presidency without any complaints. But the point is, my intention was not to cancel allowances. I said we were going to substitute them with a student loan scheme for you. And so that is still my position, that we will put you on the student loan scheme so that you can get the money that you want to finance your education. And when you leave office and you get a job, then you can start paying that loan back. If you don't get a job, nobody is coming to follow you and ask you to pay the student loan. And so that's the position that we have in respect of the student loan.
Ora John Dramani Mahama esa atoa so say etichafo de osan be yo mampani bi mu a mamu nan so da ye kra say ye beto makatwa mu ne ni kyeren adenti a na nado abawie nampani nyina sa wi dompeni kra sa aka ho.
And I'll plead with the teachers unions, NATS and NAGRAT and to continue and TEWU and all of them. And all of you are clamoring for allowances, increase in your allowances and so on and so forth. Let me caution you that in 2025, inshallah, after we take over, we will show you the books and the finances of this country, and you will realize the harm that the MPP administration has done to Ghana's economy. This country is broke, and so we will beg you that when we come into office, give us a bit of a honeymoon. Let's put things in place so that we can bring the economy back on its feet. And when we have done that, we can accede to your demands again. And that's why I'm being very measured in the promises that I make, because we all know the crisis in which this country has been plunged.
Ora John Dramani Mahama eno be building Ghana Tom. Enwemu ena Vice President Emma Voter Regional House of Chiefs. Togbega Patamia Jacqueline. Ya otoso ensom edi atu Ora John Dramani Mahama enim se omo kai no se Eastern Corridor akwan no ahase a eseye ebi wo so ayanwempo enti no onkoso a na ometo aso mfama wo mom ebie wo de atudwa se ye won ponto dwuma bebre ye ndisi fo sha ase ya MPP baaye no wo ma begia gu babia nto aso wo ma fa pen ni paper wo mo twetwe ni nyina twetwe ni nyina se na ndisi ba wo ma be ye wo ma de.
During your tenure as president of this country, the Eastern Corridor was always on the agenda. Unfortunately, we were not able to complete it to make travels from one end of the region to the other. The question I would like to put to you is, what will happen if I assume the mantle of power come next year?
Ani amuti ye aye Togbega Patamia Jacqueline. Ya otoso ensom we Vice President Voter Regional House of Chiefs. Ora John Dramani Mahama enso yina no.
It's not only in the Volta region, it's all over the country. All the projects that they inherited, they have abandoned. And they themselves have started projects that they know they cannot complete. And yet, instead of finishing the abandoned projects and ongoing projects, they've started new projects, Agenda 111. Some of them are at foundation level, some they've raised the block work, but they know that they cannot finish it before they leave. So what they'll do is they'll just push it on to somebody else and say, oh, we started this and you came and you've abandoned it. But look at the mess you've created. Where are we going to get money to finish all those projects? But I have pledged that we would restrain ourselves from starting new projects. Whatever little resources that we come and meet, we will send it into completing the ongoing and abandoned projects. And so I was talking to our General Secretary and I said we wanted our party executives and our organizers to start constituency by constituency identifying abandoned projects in your constituencies.
We Ora John Dramani Mahama building Ghana Tona Honsam Enonom Ebusafo Yedemo ko na yeni yenua kachire akua pokua akwa akodi nkomo abraho sem no ne namom ne atie ene se droba bi a yefra no Bismarck kwabana ko ekoya wafa so wawuo no abraho dodo na yebetima atemu ye paade a ege se yenua kachire akua pokua boyemu yem kachire ma che yo droba ya sami ne pese wo kire mu kwaba ne sen
na kwabe no ndubo pass ma adwunu ko na dia sasono and I said this na kwabe na akonye fish adwunu mochi and it so used to become an registration number AS 9421-21 when the must be a registration number VW 9621-21 to Australia. And I'm just now kwabe na kunye eflebo my AF da kwabe no like to in Kumu and then him e wo fence. And I am acting to offer the nature of war mine. Now, yeah, go back up and said, them first say, and what pay, and a sapling shafy. A burn of a smack aircon, not about Eddie. Now, oh, you're but checking all canon. any say we yin inside who say what is no so ben it's something make a tente woman and a man can mean kubo muna mumo no it's not a talk for man can say mun ko ton so because me one can je kura e will be a host and see now this like when you be schedule no much go be just na be for free him over be kum go ka so there say in sentiment no I have the brain of mention on papa I bet na one my and nine this much an opening I want to buy it I just about no offense minister police for the moon I copy was in that Sabia Shanken no is much Libya the sun sending sim the bull and so now copy one and that's what I share it's actually a problem on combat to Yentimino no among maybe and then a year my one a year and so I guess that this my communal comedy can't and I watch here look at the Monaco film oh in patches this for class at the touring car I be so kind made in your police for Katia I was some father my I think I for doing Juma it's what friends to call a woman
Can on go on net man
if I saw any on one
yo is a moon no dey akwa hefa
if I say
woman dey a moon no kwa hefa
the question patches a more crabia
ya da se
our face one more
yo mambo ku ya da mase wate mamu ya kon so yo abusa for ka kire akuya poku ya man bo ye fi offense so na motie no boss ebe electricals anope ye ton de amamo ni akanfo de amamo se wa unyan kanea bobo wo yes cameras CCTV ahodo ne standing fan ceiling fan ha ne ton ne papa no ye tukoton ye ton maako so ka ho edu hia bia bradum boss eba dan mu ba bia Promise Radio, Promise TV away, baby Oirepa FM, any Oirepa TV away. Hana the tone nyina e wadum prisons roundabout. Aduma ye your PZ anti-attack for danemu and a PZ wa so ne fa eni kejeti ade anhwe no so. Ukọ ho a ye wo ho. Your number is 0536 095966. Ofra ya pa abusua. Ya bejo so kase ebo na ha ne bre be makwan na ye demo asi. Oduefour na na sabere pinamanie Nana Penkrahene Chiame, Mr. Michael Yao Esumai. On the Mama Hana, almost Christ has some Thank you, Lord Jesus.
And I'll plead with the